Hello, everybody. Welcome to Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics. This is Cyrus here, and right now I'm talking a little bit about Sonia Rinaldi, the famous ITC/EVP researcher out of Brazil, and some new developments coming along on that front, which are very, very interesting. Anybody who follows this line of work knows how interesting Sonia Rinaldi is and the evidence that she has been producing for about the last decade or so. Before we begin, if you're into these kinds of supernatural topics, then please consider subscribing to the channel. Just go down to the big red button on the bottom that says subscribe. If you can't subscribe, then you may need to log into your Google account to do so. You could also hit the share button. You could hit the notification bell. These are all ways to keep the channel alive. Without that help, it's tough to keep this thing going because YouTube doesn't like unpopular channels. So, to continue. So this is actually courtesy of Sandra Champlain, a friend of mine who has the very popular podcast called We Don't Die. And Sandra was posting a couple of days ago some new developments by Sonia Rinaldi. To those unfamiliar, Sonia Rinaldi uses advanced ITC techniques to produce images of people's deceased loved ones. Now, the initial skeptical reaction to these images may be, it's an image that looks just like the deceased loved ones, so she's pulling photos off of their Facebook pages and sticking them on a screen and telling them that it's paranormal. But of course, when you dig deeper, you'll find out that that is not what's going on here. The images tend to be unique images that the family members have never seen before. So recently, she released a whole string of images that came out of a recent set of experiments working with 30 different people who have all lost loved ones. And these images tended to be unique in the sense that they may be younger looking than they did when they passed. They may be in unique poses or signifying something to show that it's them. There is a lot of images where the photo is completely unidentifiable, so you can't go through Facebook and find something that was like Photoshopped. Often, again, as I mentioned, they may look younger. A lot of things like that. Basically, this is not something a skeptic could easily dismiss. These images also appear in real time with the family members of the loved ones sometimes being present or watching it happen. So when the technology is working, you'll get a bunch of kind of static fuzz, and you can see actual video of that static fuzz, like condensing into a visual form, seeing it as a face coming up on screen. And this technology has developed over the years to result in very clear images of people coming through. Now, sometimes images come through that are not yet identified, and later they get identified by people who realize, hey, that's my son, that's my daughter, that's my parent, that's my spouse. So in this case, we have some new images by Rinaldi that are not yet identified, although in the comments by Sandra Champlain on her page, there are a lot of people coming forward, pretty close matches. Sometimes it even happens when somebody has asked the deceased loved one to please go and seek Rinaldi out, and then suddenly Rinaldi will get the image on her screen of the deceased loved one. Again, there's no way she would even be able to know to be able to fake this. Rinaldi, by the way, also uses this technology to allow living people who cannot communicate to communicate through their astral or through their spiritual forms, such as people who are in comas, or also severely autistic people who have no other method of communication. Their voices can be picked up through EVP technology as well. So this is not just for deceased people, but clearly it's working very well for deceased people. So now on the screen you can see some boys that appeared recently in her technology that have not yet been identified. Here is another trans image of what looks like a young man. You can see a couple images. So one he's smiling, and then the one below, lips are closed. Now, when we hear about how this happens, the person in charge of this technology is none other than Nikola Tesla, and Rinaldi has a lot of very, very clear EVP of Nikola Tesla communicating back to people or back to her, and you can hear basically sounds like Tesla talking. Very interesting stuff. You can find this if you delve into Rinaldi's work. So here we have again two different images. So what happens allegedly is that these people on the astral plane, which as we've talked about in this channel is a real solid physical place like this world, they will go to this institute, they will sit down, a scientist working at this institute that is run by Tesla will scan them basically using some kind of machine, and ultimately that image makes its way back to us. So they're literally sitting in front of some machine smiling for the camera, and then we get to see the image. We have the two boys. I think these are the same ones, possibly. These may all be the same two boys, I'm not sure, but the video you see the deep changes that happen to both trans images. I think that's about all there is for this one, but yeah, very interesting. These are unidentified people showing up on Sonia's technology, and I don't know if they've been identified yet, but this is what happens out of Sonia's lab. Super interesting stuff. You can find a lot of really cool work by her actually by going on Amazon, and so she has in Kindle format. They're a couple bucks each. The results of her experimentation. So one that's really good is the 30 on 30, I believe it's called. So this is when she had 30 different people try to communicate to 30 different deceased loved ones. 15 boys, 15 girls, or ladies, guys, men and women. And the results are on those Kindle documents, so you can check those out. But again, Sonia Rinaldi is one of my favorite people in this field. It's real, solid, tangible evidence. It's resulted in amazing, I want to say reunions, but amazing evidence of continued existences. Sometimes reunions because there have been direct, like electronic communications, EVP style phenomena happening as well. But it's really mind-blowing stuff. Rinaldi, I know her, and she has a heart of gold. Just the idea that she'd be faking any of this is just, it's just there's no. It's not even something worth, in my opinion, entertaining. It's not the kind of person to do something like that. But nonetheless, those thoughts have to be considered when weighing evidence, and you can look into this and see how this phenomena is legitimate. And it's really phenomenal stuff. I encourage you to check out some of her work. I'll try to include a link in the description. That's it for this video, though. If you like what you're listening to, if you like what we talk about in this channel, then be sure to click on the description of the YouTube page. You can check out afterlifetopics.com. You can join the group at Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics on Facebook. And I have a couple books out, Understanding Life After Death, where I talk more about Rinaldi's work as well as the afterlife and beyond, which just came out a few months ago this year, or rather last year. It's now 2019. I can't believe it. All right, I'll talk to you guys next time.